Welcome back, everybody. It is April of 2024, and this is episode 64 of What is on My Desk. So here we are, everybody, back for another one of my monthly What is on My Desk updates. It's going to be a shorter video this month. I don't have any new products or anything to go over. It's just going to be an update on those 4 kits. And yeah, so I guess I'm not going to keep this intro going for too long. So let's get swung over. We'll take a look at the progress on these kits. And as always, my name is Sean, and this is Sean's Aviation. So here we are at the desk. Take a quick look at the status on the kits, and I've just been slowly poking away at these things over the past month. There's been nothing really like groundbreaking done, but just little bits at a time, poking away at things. I've been able to knock quite a bit off the list. So I'll start with the F-82E, which probably has one of the least progress, to be honest, but it is I mean, it's pretty much done. So it's been obviously painted, gloss coat, decals. I weathered. The whole thing's been painted in semi-gloss, and then I went ahead and just hit the black with the flat coat. Exhaust staining is in place. The exhausts themselves have been glued in. Those have been alclad. Masking has been pulled, and I've gone around and done some little touch-ups. As I think I mentioned before, I didn't have spare of these little warning decals, so those are hand painted. Not the best, but I did it freehand, so it is what it is. But anyways, those are painted on as well, so it's ready for basically it's ready to be mounted to the stand. The propellers, I have all of the yellow tips painted here for the props. So really the next step for this is going to be getting this base done. I gotta sand, stain, and gloss the base, get the brass wire, epoxied into the final location, and then that will at least give me the ability to mount this. So things like propellers, I'm not going to glue on until after that. I do have to get all the rockets glued onto this as well, which is going to involve a bit of work. So that's kind of the next steps for this one. I also have to finish the radiator dog houses. So there's still a little bit of work on this one. I've been picking away at the other ones though, as they have landing gear and stuff that has been eating up a lot of my time. So looking now at the G, it pretty much in the same spot. It sits on its own wheels, which was kind of the big thing I wanted to work on. So again, paint, decals, paint, gloss coat, decals, a little bit of weathering. Hit it all with a flat coat. I pulled all of the masking off. I had a little bit of touch-ups to do around the cockpit with some of the masking, so I had to paint some of the exterior color a little bit, clean that up. And then the exhaust staining, the exhausts are glued on, the landing gears glued in. That took a little bit of work. They didn't have a lot of positive fit. It was pretty wobbly, and the wheels themselves didn't really fit very well. So I had to do a bit of work on those to get them to really lock into place, bit of super glue. Weathering, tail wheels are glued on. They have been weathered. I have a little bit here I got to paint. I've got the dog houses for the radiators are cleaned up. They just need to be painted and installed. And I got the propeller hubs, same thing. They just need to be painted. And then the radar itself, which go down the middle, it's painted black now just as a test. I want to paint it the official kind of final color, this dark gray. And then now that it sits on its own, I just realized, while we're sitting here talking, I just realized that one of my exhaust stacks have been overpainted. Not my exhaust stacks, the gun ejector pinholes has a little bit of build up, probably gloss coat build up. Anyway, that's done. Now that it sits on its own landing gear, I can actually get that radar pod glued on. My worry was of like putting it down and breaking it off, but now with the landing gear, it will sit on its wheels, or I can hang it upside down on my stand to do any work on the bottom. So once this is painted, then I can glue the those dog houses in place. I'll probably start gluing the landing gear doors in place. Apologies for that. We had a candy emergency with one of my kids. Anyways, yeah, so I'll probably end up getting the gear doors glued on and the tail wheel doors, the dog houses, get that glued on. Then I'll glue the radar pod to it. And then that's the most of it done. And then little things like propellers, spinners, all that little stuff. The canopies, I still have to flat coat. I forgot to flat coat the canopies when I flat coated the rest of it. So then I can flat coat these, pull the maskings, I can get those guys glued into the right spot. And then propellers will be like the last thing I mount to this. And then I also have the drop tanks. They'll be painted aluminum, which I'll paint at the same time I paint the dog houses for the ep.62. So we're slowly getting there. That's a lot of work. Like I said, a lot of little things that just need picked away. And there's a lot of like, you do something, you can't do something else for, you know, a while to let things dry, especially the landing gear, right? It took, I would say, a few days to get those landing gears to really mount and solidify. And even then, I don't know if you can see with the wheels don't quite sit straight. Even after they hardened, they ended up sitting at a weird angle, and I'm gonna live with it. It can't be perfect. The gears are very flexible. There's a lot of play in the gears. The wheels didn't have a really good positive mounting point, so they had some play in them, and just as you put it all together, things just don't quite lock in the way you expect them to. So it is what it is. I will live with it. The Mosquito really in the same spot as kind of everything else. Paint, gloss, decals, weathering, flat coat, pull the masking, and I've been picking away at some of the little details. Things like all these antennas have all been mounted. The pitot tube's been mounted. The landing gear's completed and it's been glued in. The tail wheel's painted and glued in. I've got to do things like the gear doors, the Bombay doors. The exhausts are glued on place. I used the covers, but I also painted them and wore the paint so it looks like, you know, the paint's been fading off of them. So it's a bit of a, you know, just enough to make it look dynamic. Prop head, spinners and blades, they're glued together, so they're pretty much ready to just be glued on. But like everything else, I'll probably make that one of the last things I do, just so I don't knock things off. But they don't take much to glue on at the end. So in terms of next steps, I actually managed to collect all of the parts, and this right here, this little plastic shot glass is all I have left to install on this kit. The entry door is still in here. I have to flat coat it. I forgot to flat coat that when I did the rest of it, so I'll do that while I do the canopies on the G. I've still got the wingtip lights to put on, which I'll do near the end. I still have to paint the pitot tube steel, and then things like I said, all the gear doors, and then there's the actuators for the Bombay doors. They still have to be painted. I'll probably just paint them aluminum, and I got to touch up some of the interior green when I get the gear doors and stuff glued on. All of these hinges, well, the Bombays I should say, these Bombay hinges I'll just touch up by hand with some interior green, which is when I'll probably end up painting some of these pieces interior green, and then by hand I'll just paint up the little bits I have to do by hand, and then get that glued in, get the doors glued in, all the other little things that's got to get done. But we're getting there. It's actually, I think of all of the kits, this is the closest I have to finished. And I said, these Tamiya kits are like that. They're shake and bake, they fall together. I haven't really had to put much effort into that Mosquito. It's mostly just been poking at that while I'm putting all the effort into those F82s, because there was a lot of work on those F82s. And then the Lincoln, again, not much has been done. I think I believe the last update. If I haven't, I want to talk about this, and if I didn't talk about it, I'll include it. If I did talk about it last month, because I can't remember, then I'm just going to cut to the next part. So let's see what happens. I dropped this. I dropped it. I broke it. Bombay floor popped out. A whole bunch of the cockpit detail fell out. The rear seam here cracked. The whole nose fell off. No, the nose didn't fall off. No, the nose stayed on, but the Bombay broke off. The clear piece fell off. The bomb aimer's cupola and the bottom chin piece broke off. The Bombay fell out, partially fell out. It broke the seam, lost a bunch of the detail in the rear part of the cockpit. Luckily, the pilot seat and everything stayed. It was the navigator's table that popped, and then this seam popped. So I had to go through and rebuild it all. and put a bit of effort into that. And then I decided in that process that I was just gonna glue the Bombay doors on and give it some extra strength. So that's what I did. I've glued the Bombays on. I used some super glue to clean up the seams and the baking soda to really harden it. And this is the first application of putty. Oh, there's some sandpaper. This is the first application of putty over top of that work, and I haven't even sanded it yet. So, you know, I have no idea what these seams are going to look like, but that's kind of the next step, just for my own interest. But you know, I just got to go through and sand this, and it's actually looking pretty good. I think that's, once I get the seam all sanded down, it's just going to be a matter of hitting it with some primer. And I think I'm probably going to, I might not even rescribe, to be perfectly honest. I might just bite the bullet and start painting. I gotta see. I mean, I've gotten to the point now when I'm kind of tired of putting in the effort, especially after I dropped it and broke it. It seems like every time it's one step forward, two steps back with this thing. And at some point I just have to say I'm done and I'm gonna move on. So that's gonna be the call. I might attempt to do some rescribing maybe on the bottom of the wings. Speaking of the wings, I did get all the cowlings glued on, puttied, sanded. Again, without a coat of primer, I'm not entirely sure how well they're going to look. I do have to add, you know, the ailerons and stuff, rescribe for those and all that. So I mean, I really want to rescribe, but the thought of having to go through the effort of rescribing this entire kit, it doesn't interest me. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, I might start on the bottom of the wings, see how it looks, and then move to the top and move to the fuselage after that. We'll see. It's a lot of work I got to put into rescribing this thing, and there's a lot of other problems with it that, you know, rescribing is like lipstick on a pig. So I'm not entirely sure. We'll see. Either way, I'm still working on it. I'm still plugging away. It will get finished. It's just a matter of how much effort I put into the finished product. So we'll see when I get there. But anyways, yeah. So that's the status of the Lincoln. So hopefully by next month, I will be at, if not rescribing, hopefully right on to paint with that, because it's got to get done. Actually, I don't want to put that down there. I want to put that up here. So yeah, that's kind of the status of the kits. That shows you where things are. As I mentioned, I don't have any new products coming out. That pretty much wraps it up. But just a quick kind of channel update. Air show season starting in, beginning of April, so 3 months. End of June is the first show in Trenton. Still looking like a decent show. Hasn't been a lot of announcements yet, but I'm hopeful that we'll start to get a bunch of stuff coming out soon on that, and I'm excited for that show. So I'll have a lot of content coming out from there, and the usual with the RCAF 100th. I've still got the RCAF history videos coming out, so I'm going to start pushing, continue with those. And the air show, last year's air show content, I still have quite a bit. I'm also working on a video series on the Spitfire, similar to my P-51 series, so I don't know when that's going to come out, hopefully sometime this year. But yeah, just plugging away on the videos. I do have some bigger ideas for this summer as well in terms of some other content, so we'll see what happens. So on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. As I mentioned, it's going to be a shorter one, so you guys can move on with other stuff in your life if you have other stuff to do. So thank you for watching, and we'll catch up next time. Have a good one.